Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. I have a very special guest with me, Alessio Quaglini, who is the co-founder and CEO of Hex Trust, which provides institutional custody for digital assets. Alessio, it's great to have you today.
Thanks for having me here.
Alessio, I'm very curious about the service Hex Trust provides, but before we get into that, I think folks will love to hear about your background. Where are you from? How did you get into the crypto market? Maybe what did you do before the crypto market as well?
Okay, that's a very long story. Anyway, I was born in Rome, Italy, and that's also where I grew up until the age of 24. I studied engineering in the University of Rome, and I got a master's degree in telecommunications engineering from the same university. After that, I moved to Spain and the US for my MBA, but since 2010, I lived in Hong Kong. I started my career as a network security engineer, but right after finishing my MBA, my career moved towards the financial sector, and I joined the Italian securities regulator. It was during the GFC, so regulators were actually moving to hire a different type of profiles. More engineers, mathematicians, physicists, with the idea that they had to understand what had gone wrong in the market and build models to supervise financial markets more efficiently going forward. After that, I had the opportunity to move to Hong Kong, where I worked for two banks in different positions, but mainly in global markets and client coverage. And that was until basically 3 years ago. As you know, banks were changing back then. AML, KYC, and other regulation gradually became more important, and product innovation basically slowed down, if not die completely. Back then, with two ex-colleagues, we decided to set up an investment vehicle to start investing in startup companies in Hong Kong and Asia. And that's how one of the companies that we invested in was accelerated by a leading startup accelerator here in Hong Kong called Betatron. It's kind of a YC in Hong Kong. And the founder of this startup accelerator is called Rafael, and he's actually the co-founder of Hex Trust. That's how I met him.
Got it. So how did you first come across cryptocurrencies and eventually the idea of coming and building Hex Trust?
Well, actually, I bought my first Bitcoins in 2014. So I was always exposed to the area. I read the white paper. Obviously, I was very attracted by all the idea of Bitcoin and what it entails. But it wasn't until 2007, the end of 2017, when I met Rafael. Yeah. So Rafael and I have very different backgrounds, but we're both engineers. Right, and we both worked in the financial industry for a long time. Back then, an asset manager here in Hong Kong asked me to help them set up a crypto hedge fund. So what I did with Rafael was start looking for a fund administrator, a custodian, an auditor, right? And I realized that basically nothing was there for an institutional setup. So Rafael and I, we looked at the crypto space, and we thought, okay, adoption is never going to happen at the institutional level if there are no enterprise-grade platforms available for institutional investors. And that's how we really decided, okay, let's bring our experience in the traditional financial markets to the crypto space.
Very cool. And I love the thought process there that, not going to wait around for it. We're going to do it. And in order to get adoption, you got to have the services, the on-ramps and things like that together. So on that note, could you give us an overview of Hex Trust services? I know at a high level, custody, token issuance, and KYC services.
Yeah, so we basically focus on the custody part, right? So as I was mentioning before, we thought that if institutional investors were to adopt digital assets, they would need these enterprise-grade platforms, right? Enterprise-grade platforms really, I mean, in a nutshell, really means that you're able to manage and transact digital assets. To do so, you need a custody platform that allows you to safekeep and transact, and a custody platform that allows you to connect to other platforms that are available in the market. So it's not just about safekeeping your assets, but it's about being able to use your assets to do whatever you want to do, whether it's payments, whether it's lending crypto assets, whether it's borrowing digital assets from somebody else or staking them. You have to have a platform that allows you to do all these things seamlessly in the same way that you would do them with other assets. And that's the idea behind what we do. We call it custody because it's a word that everybody understands, but it's really an infrastructure that allows financial institutions to operate digital assets.
Very cool. And what countries are your services available in?
So we set up originally the company in Hong Kong, which is also our hub. Last year, we set up our office in Singapore. Mm-hmm. We are currently licensed in Hong Kong. We have a trust company and a trustee license in Hong Kong, and we're applying for a CMS custody license from MAS in Singapore. In 2020, the plan was, let's see how, in terms of timeline, how we can reschedule it. But the plan is to set up our office in Europe and complete our platform, which will cover Asia and Europe. And we have already started the regulatory process, and we have already obtained the provisional approval authorization from BaFin to operate in Germany, and we will submit the final application before the end of the year.
That's great news. And as far as the cryptos that you provide custody for, I'm assuming it includes the top Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and others?
Yeah, so we currently support the top 10 protocols, and obviously the tokens that can be issued on those protocols. And we have also integrated Corda into our custody platform.
Very cool. And yeah, we recently heard about the partnership. I think it made the news headlines where you guys partnered with R3 and leveraging Corda. So can you talk a bit about that? In the article, it mentioned that you will be helping Asian banks issue token securities on the Corda blockchain. Is that correct?
Yeah. So obviously, banks are our primary target, right? So that's where we think that an institutional platform will allow banks to provide services in digital assets to their clients. In terms of Corda, why Corda? I think the financial markets cannot go at the same speed as other markets, right? So things have to happen step by step. I don't think that at the moment, financial markets and institutions in the financial markets are ready to offer at a scale services to end clients, including retail clients on public blockchains. So I believe that it will happen gradually, and the first step would be using private or permission blockchains. Corda offers a very reliable platform which can allow financial institutions to issue and transact and reconcile trades in a quite reliable and scalable way. So we believe that this will be the first step for financial institutions to actually give access to their clients to digital assets. The next step will be to expand this into blockchains that would not be necessarily private or permissioned.
That makes sense. I certainly understand starting with the private and from a security standpoint and, kind of crawl, walk, run. So how did the
You're gonna make mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So how did the R3 partnership come about? Did they approach you? Did you approach them? Any light you can shed there?
It's actually, I mean, really being part of the same community. It actually, the initial introduction to Corda came from our. We have two important partnerships in the market that really help us provide what we think is the best solution for banks. So one is with Corda, with R3, and the other one is with IBM. And actually, Corda was introduced to us by IBM.
Oh, interesting. So there is a question from the XRP community who are very curious about if XRP would be leveraged in any way, given that Corda Settler leverages XRP as the first settlement mechanism. I don't know how much you can tell us about that, or if any, but definitely wanted to ask you the question.
Well, what I can say is that we have already integrated both Corda and XRP into our custody platform. Right? So the universal settler application, I think, is a very important step to leverage and connect private and public blockchains, right, to provide a seamless experience to the end customer. So this really goes in the same direction as we think. We want to provide a platform where clients will be able to seamlessly read and write information from different blockchains using the same authorization workflows and operational setup. So yes, both of them are integrated, and I'm really looking forward to creating more interoperability between private and public blockchains.
Awesome. And can you speak to what type of tokenized securities that I don't know if you can shed any light there yet, but that the banks are looking to tokenize? What type of securities they're looking to tokenize? Maybe different assets and things like that.
Well, I mean, it's exactly what everybody is talking about. So it's mainly equities, fixed income, and real estate.
Got it. And from a custody demand standpoint, because you mentioned banks, what other institutional type of clients are you seeing demand from?
Yeah, so I mean, as I was mentioning before, banks are really our main target. Also, we think that it is with banks that we will actually accelerate the adoption in the market. Yeah. But obviously, once we prove that our technology can be used reliably by banks, then all the other financial institutions can become our target. Yeah? And obviously, I mean, we talk to exchanges, we talk to clearinghouses, we talk to insurance companies and asset managers.
Very cool. So segue into something that maybe I'll preface the question by saying not financial or investment advice. What do you personally hold in your crypto portfolio?
I told you already. So I bought Bitcoin back in 2014 here in Hong Kong, and I also have some ETH, Tezos, and a few more altcoins.
Okay, awesome. What are your thoughts on the upcoming CBDCs? Seems central banks and governments around the world are looking to build these out. What are your thoughts on that, and what impact it may have on the crypto market?
Yeah. So CBDCs, first of all, CBDCs come in two fashions, right? So there are CBDCs for wholesale CBDCs. For example, the JP Morgan coin that can be used to settle a transaction within the bank or with other financial institutions. Or you have the retail CBDC, right? The CBDCs that are used by individuals and households. So eventually, these two types will probably converge. But I think that for the time being, we will have two different markets. Yeah. In terms of the impact that they will have, on the crypto world, I would say that there are two main impacts that they will bring to the world in general. Yeah. So the first one will be a great push for digital asset mainstream adoption. Why this is the case? Because regardless of which technology central banks will use to issue central bank digital currencies, and probably every central bank around the world will be using a different technology. Actually, we know that central banks around the world are using different technologies, right? And some are more blockchain based, other are less blockchain based. Yeah, but regardless of what underlying technology they will use, they will push banks to adopt new platforms, new technologies, and they will push banks to adopt platforms that will be able to operate across different technology stacks. So if the central bank in Switzerland uses a certain technology and the central bank in China issues a currency with different technology, banks that want to transact with these two different currencies, they will need one platform that will be able to operate the two different technologies. So there will be a big push for financial institutions to enter this space and adopt new technologies. The other part that I think is very important, and it's not really partially related to the crypto world, but I think is very important, is that central bank digital currencies will help improve the transmission mechanism of monetary policy. Yeah. So monetary policy, and I mean, I don't want to open this kind of topic, but sometimes works well, sometimes doesn't function properly. And especially in situations like the one that we're experiencing right now,
Sure.
It might not work properly. And I think this acceleration of CBDCs is actually very important. And it is exactly in this moment in which we want to make sure that the transmission mechanisms brings liquidity to where it is needed.
Got it. Yeah. I know there's been a lot of talks about, hey, we should not send, here at least in the US, stimulus money via checks. Let's see how we can get something going digital. So it seems the ball's already rolling there, and the current situation is maybe fast tracking that process. But we'll see, what comes out of it. Finally, I wanted to get your thoughts. Obviously, the whole world is in this pandemic, and we have to kind of get back to normal life. But what's your outlook on the crypto market over the next 2 to 3 years? Where do you see us? Certainly, based on the comments you've given already, you're expecting growth, but maybe some other info that you can shed some light on.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I see growth, and I think it's for those that are always waiting for the institutional adoption. I mean, being in the market, I can really tell that it's happening. Like, everybody's looking at it, and it's not retail anymore. I mean, we're seeing financial institutions working on solutions. Yeah? So, but apart from that, going back to the previous topic, I think we are really on the verge of a reset of the financial system. Yeah. So this financial system that has been working more or less for the past few years now is a little bit at stake. And we're seeing central banks and governments that, with whatever it takes, pledge of bringing to the market liquidity everywhere. And we're seeing dislocations in every single market, being equities, bonds, oil. Well, cryptocurrencies have actually showed a certain stability. Yeah, I mean, regardless of, obviously there has been a big drop and a rebound, but they have moved in a different way on the other assets. And going forward, we will have an amount of liquidity that we have never seen before that will just flow to the markets, when the biggest risk for every single individual will be that our wealth will be washed away by all this liquidity. This is something that everybody has to keep in mind. And we have in front of us an asset class that could actually provide a solution or a hedge in this critical situation. So I think the next few months will really be an important moment in which we see how the cryptocurrency market will react to the current situation. And I think it will give us a lot of information on how this will work in the coming few years.
Alessio, very insightful information. And I appreciate all the work you guys are doing there and the great service you provide. So thank you so much. We'll love to have you back on, and wish you a great 2020 as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.